Good evening. Welcome to our 2017 Citizen of the Year program and dinner dance. I am Mayor Kathleen Weaver, Mayor of the City of Darien, and so very happy to be with all of you this evening. As I mentioned before, this is a very special event. Not only are we honoring Steve Hiatt as our 2017 Citizen of the Year, but it's also our 45th year of actually doing this, honoring citizens, special citizens of our town. I'd like to first introduce our city government members that are here this evening. We have our city clerk, Joanne Ragona, here this evening. There she is. Our city treasurer, Mike Corrin, right over here. City Administrator Brian Viana at our table. And now for our elected officials by ward. Alderman Ted Schauer is our alderman for Ward 1. Alderman Tina Belke for Ward 2 is right here. Ward 3 is Joe Kenny, right over here. Ward 4 is Tom Klistic, back by the bar. Alderman of Ward 5 is Joe Marquez. And we are missing Alderman Sylvia McIver, who is the alderman for Ward 6 this evening, but we have Alderman Tom Belzak, Ward 7. And as you notice, he brought his own cheering squad with him. So members of our police department are here this evening. Our chief, Greg Thomas. And one of our commanders, Jerry Piccoli, is with us this evening. Other elected officials in the room this evening is our Darien Park District Board. We have Ray Jablonski. There he is. Kathy Marquez. And Frank Novarini. Oh, there he is, okay. From our Indian Prairie Library Board, Mary Karpika is with us this evening. You'll hear her name mentioned along with Kathy Marquez's name a couple times this evening. Our Darien Chamber of Commerce President, Claire Bongiovanni, is with us this evening. Fresh from Florida, and can you tell that she was just in Florida? A member of our Kiwanis Club, Hans Tolin, is in the back area. Thank you, Hans, for being with us this evening. And in our audience this evening, we have some representatives from Giant Steps. I'm not sure who you are, but would you please stand up and let us recognize you? This is an organization that Steve has devoted some time to, so they wanted to be here to support him in this special honor this evening. This evening also, as part of our Citizen of the Year special event, we honor those individuals who volunteer to be members of committees and commissions within the city. And we owe these individuals a great dedication to what they do. For our communications and cable volunteers, we have Dennis Cable here this evening. I believe he's what, yes, okay. With our environmental committee, we have Alan Jakimick and Arletta Pecknick and Christian Sant. On our Fire and Police Commission, Frank Novarini, another name we hear again, and Wayne Charnak. Wayne, thank you. Again, Wayne brought his own cheering squad with him, too. From our Planning Commission, we have Ron Kiefer. Lou Mallers. Oh, boy. I think I started something. Ray Milkus. And Ken Ritzert, both in the back table. Thank you for all the volunteer work that you do for the city. We couldn't do it without you. And our lending closet volunteers, Dan and Mary Sackett, are you with us this evening? Okay, and we have, we call him our all-around go-to guy, Steve Kowina, way in the back. He's our special effects guy. He's always taping us at all of our events, and thank you, Steve. And thank you to all of these volunteers for all that they do. And also we have our one of the members of the Holiday Home Decorating Committee, Jim Kaiser, with us this evening. Jim? Okay. This evening wouldn't be possible without the work of 4 very dedicated individuals. Our Citizen of the Year committee, and they are headed by a very able person in Bonnie Cusera, and her fellow members are Carol Mellers, Merle Salazar, and Peggy Radakovitz. So thank you all for putting this special event together. And also in this audience this evening, we have a number of past Citizens of the Year. But before I introduce them, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of how we got here and why those balloons are behind me here. In August of 1972, by city ordinance, and it was decided by a 6-to-1 vote. You see, even then, they still couldn't agree, everybody together. But by a 6-to-1 vote, they commemorated the founding of the city, and they called it Darien Day. And this achievement, and with this recognition, they decided to honor well-deserving residents and calling them Citizens of the Year. At that time, it was decided that the celebration would take place annually in October. And as you see, we've changed months as we've gone along through the years. But the same criteria has been used every year. The amount of service to the city, the criteria is very specific on what we want to honor these individuals. And so that was the same criteria that they created then. And this proclamation was signed by the mayor then, who was Edward Jenkins, and our city clerk was Joyce Stahl. So since then, we've had so many well-deserving individuals, and a number of them are here with us this evening. And if you look at the back of the program, you'll see the names of all of the past Citizens of the Year. Tonight with us is Lil Brown, our 1974 Citizen of the Year. Jeanette Campo, our 1998 Citizen of the Year. Is Jeanette here? Okay. 1999, Pat Gillespie. I know he's here. 2002, Krish Sant. 2004, John Callan. And 2006, Rosemarie Courtney. Okay. 2008 was Jim Tukalski. And 2009, I can, just waiting to hear this crowd, this loud, was Art Donner. What a surprise, Art, what a surprise. 2012, the first time ever, we had a husband and wife be our Citizens of the Year, very deserving individuals, Rob and Charviam. In 2013, Kathy Marquez. In 2015, Ron Kiefer. In 2016, Marion Kopika. Have you noticed a few names keep getting mentioned? You can see that we have some wonderful people in the city of Darien, individuals that step up and do so much for the community, and they're still involved with organizations. So kudos to each one of those. We did lose this past year 2 of our Citizens of the Year. Cindy Hagan and Harold Oban, and they will be missed. Recognizing all the talents that these volunteers and past recipients have graced the city of Darien, it is no wonder that we have our logo, our motto, a nice place to live. And we applaud you all for all that you do. On Tuesday, February 22nd, the City Council passed a resolution honoring Steve. And at this time, I'd like to read that proclamation. Whereas Stephen Hiatt has been a resident of Darien since 1998, Steve and Kathy have been married for 17 years, and they have 3 sons, Richard and his daughter-in-law, Diana, his wife, Diana, Kevin and Dan, and they have 1 grandchild, Ryder. And whereas Steve Hiatt's milestones are not measured in days or months of support, but in multitude of years. When Steve moved to Darien, he became part of the city's activities, and whereas in 2003, Steve became a member of the Darien Lions Club and has served as chairman on many committees. Candy Day, pancake, breakfast, meeting, meals, and he will chair the 2017 Lions Club golf outing. He served as president in 2012, and as past president, corresponding secretary, financial secretary, and treasurer. Many hats to wear. Steve initiated and instituted the American Flag Holiday Program to continue the monetary growth of the Lions Club Foundation. In 2013, Steve Hiatt was honored as Darien Lions Foundation Fellowship recipient. And whereas Steve Hiatt has been a liaison with the Darien Chamber of Commerce, he recruited volunteers and worked in various capacities for Darien Fest. He has also been a committed volunteer to the last several Darien Dash races, and I know Claire could not do the race without your help. And whereas Steve serves on the board of directors of the Darien Historical Society, and whereas Steve assists with food drive at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which provides food baskets to more than 600 families during the holidays, and Toys for Joy that collect and distribute over thousands of toys to the needy. And whereas Steve Hiatt is very active in the Lions Club sponsorship of the Giant Steps School for autistic children and young adults, he has been a giving recipient of the Giant Steps School for many years by working food tables, manning barbecue pits, aiding security, and getting others to volunteer at their annual event. And whereas Steve Hiatt has been employed by Kronos, a time management software company, for 34 years, and whereas Steve was featured in the September-October 2016 Neighbors of Darien community publication for his spirit and volunteerism, which landed him on the front cover. He is passionate about giving to his community, and whereas Steve Hiatt has 2 passions, classic guitar playing and Bluella, his vintage 1966 baby blue Cadillac. And whereas Steve Hiatt is dedicated to making Darien a nice place to live through various clubs and activities, his untiring commitment to assisting others, not just financially, but with boots on the ground, Steve Hiatt made the ultimate giving sacrifice as a kidney donor. Steve Hiatt is the poster child for the Citizen of the Year. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Darien that Steve Hiatt be hereby designated the 2017 Citizen of the Year for the City of Darien in recognition of his many years of dedicated service to the City of Darien and its residents. And of course, it was a unanimous vote. Congratulations, Steve. Many more accolades here this evening, Steve, so stay tuned. I would like to, we also have a certificate of recognition from State Senator Christine Radonio, and we also have a resolution from State Representatives Patty Bellock and Jim Durkin, which I will give to you in a little while. But I would like to acknowledge that we have David Olson, our representative from District 86, our state representative from District 86, who would like to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Weaver. On behalf of the residents of the 81st District and the Illinois General Assembly, I'd like to present this certificate of recognition to Steve. I will briefly read, it commends Steve on being named Darien Citizen of the Year and joins in the commemoration of all the effort, the volunteerism, and hard work, and expresses our best wishes for further success for many years to come. This is offered by myself as state representative and will join in the many accolades and congratulations. So on behalf of the people of the 81st District and the entire General Assembly, congratulations.
I have a few more to go through, so I think I might just keep a collection right here for you, Steve, and have you come up in a few minutes here. Now I'd like to introduce a good friend to the city of Darien, DuPage County Commissioner John Curran, who will make his presentation to Steve.
Steve, congratulations, and it's a privilege to be here with you tonight. I'll just read an abridged version because certainly that beautiful proclamation from the village covered a lot. So, proclamation of commendation to Steve Hiatt, 2017 Darien Citizen of the Year. Whereas DuPage County recognizes Steve Hiatt of Darien, who has selflessly devoted his time and talents to serving his community and improving the quality of life for his fellow neighbors. Whereas for more than 17 years, Steve has been an active resident of Darien, where he resides with his wife, Kathy. Whereas Steve's generosity has truly made a positive impact on thousands of Darien and DuPage County families, earning him the honor of 2017 Darien Citizen of the Year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Daniel J. Cronin, Chairman of the DuPage County Board, and members of the County Board, do hereby commend Steve Hiatt for humbly serving his community, thus prompting the distinction of 2017 Darien Citizen of the Year. Congratulations, Steve.
Okay, thank you. I would now like to introduce Matt Goodwin. He's a Lions Club member, but also he is the past commander of VFW 2838 to make a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wow, Dennis, you got me turned up. Wow. I don't know. My energetic personality, what can I tell you? It's truly an honor to be able to come up here and present this honor to Steve, both professionally and personally. Many years ago when the Darien VFW had a post home here in town, thanks to Mayor Weaver and Mr. Vanna for helping us get that done, as well as the entire City Council. But one night Steve stopped in and we got to talking about this young man who I saw on a YouTube video playing guitar like crazy. He was, about 10 years old, and he was playing some crazy Van Halen riff. And Steve says, "You know, Matt, I could teach you how to do that." And little did I know I was going to be buying a guitar and sitting in a VFW hall with Steve Hiatt teaching me how to play guitar. So I'm sorry I haven't gotten much further. I need to come back for some more lessons. So please let me know when your calendar opens up with the Citizen of the Year stuff. I know you're going to be busy, so it'll stay sitting in my living room. But I recently returned home from overseas in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. I'm a 17-year Army reservist, along with Commander of the VFW, Marty Schaefer, who's sitting back here with me, who's, where are you at, Marty? 27, 28 years now? 27 years in the Army as well. And it's truly an honor to be able to present to you, Steve, a flag of our country. You have helped many Darien residents fly our nation's flag on their front lawns through the Lions Club Foundation's flag program. Steve's been a big part of the Lions Club annual 4th of July parade, and you've been an unwavering supporter of veterans, service members, and their families. This flag of our nation, which I have here, was flown above the U.S. Capitol in Washington on January 31st, 2017, in honor of you being named Darien Citizen of the Year. On behalf of all veterans, service members and their families, and all of the patriotic citizens of Darien, it is my distinct honor to present this flag to you, Steve, my friend. Thank you.
Steve, stay up here.
There's a certificate.
We might as well make it official with all of the accolades you have here. And also, I want to present to you the official. This one you can keep now. We're not going to take it away from you this time. We had a cake and coffee at City Hall on February 19th to recognize Steve, and we gave him the plaque, but then we took it back because we have to give it to him officially tonight. So congratulations, Steve, being the 2017 Citizen of the Year. You are a well-deserving person, and it's an honor to recognize you this evening. Okay, thank you, Steve. And do you want to take all these too? Okay, you'll be up here soon. So now I'd like to introduce Jim Kaiser, who is going to be our Master of Ceremonies for the evening. And Jim, I know you're going to do a great job, and there's a lot of people you have to introduce, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, my thoughts started on 2 pages. It's grown to 8, only because the print has gotten a lot bigger. So, again, thank you, Madam Mayor. The Citizen of the Year Committee does a great job putting this evening together. They need a great round of applause from all of us. A lot of hard work. And thank you to the City of Darien for uniting us for the 45th time. What a fantastic idea. Again, my name is Jim Kaiser, and I've been given a great honor tonight to share some stories and guide you through the next several hours. Not to worry, not to worry. We have been given a strict timeline to follow. The reason we are here is to recognize an outstanding citizen of Darien. This year, that citizen is Steve Hiatt. Steve has 2 things going for him tonight. Number 1, he will not get stuck with the bar bill as if a wedding was going on. Number 2, he is present to hear what people have to say about him, unlike a funeral. And we have plenty to say about him. Lions International is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and they have a saying, where there is a need, there is a lion. Over the last 14 years, I have come to become friends with Steve, and I can honestly say, where there's a need, there's Lion Steve. Earlier tonight, a proclamation was read briefly listing some of Steve's accomplishments and contributions. We just can't leave it at brief descriptions. Let's expand on some of those whereases. I'd like to introduce Lou Mellors and have him come up and talk about some of his experiences with Steve. Lou.
I'm glad to say I have not had any experiences with Steve. Let me ask you a question. What's the first letter of the word volunteer? What's the letter of the first letter of the word volunteer? No, you're all wrong. It's actually H for Hiatt. On behalf of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, the parish, as parish council, I'd like to congratulate Steve on an extremely well-deserved honor. Steve has always been very supportive of the individual ministries that we have under the Service Commission. From his work from our Toys for Joys is something that Steve has been very, very involved with the children. He likes to give orders and tell everybody where everything needs to go. He also likes to ride the bicycles down the center aisle of the church. And Father Mike chases him and comes and says, "Get off the bike, Steve, get off the bike." It's his turn. Yeah. Steve's involvement in our holiday meals is something that is totally unbelievable, because we have 3 sets of meals that we do 3 times a year: Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. And Steve braves the cold weather and the wet weather to be outside to make sure that those people that get meals that might otherwise not get meals, and we really, really do appreciate it. And finally, our St. Vincent de Paul twice-a-year clothing drive. Steve is always there to help, and incidentally, that's coming up the last weekend in April. Steve. But as I said, the first letter of the word volunteer is not a V, but an H for Steve Hiatt, our 2017 Darien Citizen of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you, Lou. Isn't it amazing how time flies? Steve became a Darien resident in 1998. Since then, he married Kathy, they raised 3 boys, and he is now a grandfather. During that time, he joined the Darien Lions in the fall of 2003. Since becoming a Lion, Steve has made a positive impact on the Darien Lions Club, which ultimately makes a positive impact on our community. Whether a member of the board of directors, chairing a committee, or just being a Lion, Steve is a great leader. Giant Steps was mentioned earlier. Steve and Kathy attended one of their fundraisers several years ago. Steve identified a couple ways for the Lions to get involved. The next year, the Lions attended, had several jobs: spotting for the live auction, policing the silent auction, and manning the coat check. You may be thinking right now, how does that help? Simple. When the Giant Steps Committee doesn't have to worry about those activities, they can focus on more important things and maybe have a little free time and enjoy the evening. With the evening almost over, it was time to give back the coats. Now it gets interesting. Steve knew a tip jar would be very important to have on hand. As we worked through the pile of coats, we offered those with a short fur, for a small upgrade price, a bigger fur. However, nobody took us up on that. But because of our personal touch service, the tip jar ended up with over $800. We asked ourselves, what do we do with that? Steve immediately said, we give it to Giant Steps. I now would like to introduce Commander Jerry Pickley of the Darien Police Department to tell us of some of his involvement with Steve.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, promise, no tests. Not like Mr. Maller's, of course, but I'm honored to be in front of you to talk about my friend Steve. I have been aware of Steve for probably a little bit over 10 years. Being a police officer for the city of Darien, one of our jobs is you want to kind of be aware of who's in your town and what's going on and who's doing what and that kind of stuff. Well, we were aware of this group of motorcycle riders that enjoyed going out riding. They used to ride very nice bikes, used to wear nice outfits. Can I call it an outfit, or what do you guys call it? An outfit? Protective gear, nice, okay. So I didn't know who these people were. I just knew they were often out riding. As time goes on, I come to realize that it's 2 people who I later find out is Steve and Kathy Hiatt. Still, I haven't really met these people. I just knew who they were. Now, let's go forward about, 7, 8 years ago. Again, as a representative of the police department, I was delegated to be a liaison with the Darien Dash. And I will insert the cheap plug here. On May 21st, Claire, right, is the Darien Dash, and registration's open, right, Claire? Okay, good. So I was assigned to partake in these Darien Dash meetings. Walk into my first meeting, who do I see? This Harley riding gentleman who I had never saw before, and I'm thinking this ought to be good. So as the meeting starts and we start to get into this, I realize it is good. Steve is a true leader. His dedication and time and the commitment he made to that event with one simple goal is to make it a really good event for the city of Darien is simply his task. It was a very inspiring to watch his work, watch his dedication, to see how he did this. And after working with him for several years on these dashes, again, he's truly inspiring at the amount of dedication and time he gives to try to make Darien an outstanding place to be involved in certain activities. Now let's go forward a couple more years now. About 4 or 5 years ago, I'm having a discussion with my friend Steve, and we were starting to talk about maybe ways that we can improve the dash, some way that we can make it where it's not as impactful to the neighborhood or not as impactful to the resources of the city. So we were just kind of spitballing. I wasn't really thinking much was going to come of that. About a week later, I get a phone call from Steve and wants to know if I have a few minutes to get together. We meet, and he's got all these maps and Google Maps and symbols and all kinds of stuff over a new course that he has, and he tells me he went out and drove this course and actually walked it with a measuring device and said, yep, we're within certification amount, so I think this is the way to go, and we're going to do that. And that is pretty much, I believe, the course that we now run and sponsor today. So again, Steve has been truly inspiring, and I really didn't know much about him, but the more I got to know him, the stuff he's been involved with is overwhelming. I don't know where he finds the time. So I'd like to close my time, if I could, with a quote from our 6th President of the United States, John Quincy Adams, and I believe it's fitting. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you, Commander Jerry. If you look at the stories just shared, there's a common thread tying them together. Where there was a need, Steve was there. Steve not only gives of his time or from his pocket, he literally gives of himself. Have you ever had a neighbor need something? All the time, right? Somebody's always asking you for something. Well, he found out his neighbor needed something a lot more, a kidney. Steve was checked for compatibility, and the answer was yes. He decided to donate a kidney of his to make a person's life a lot better. In fact, Diana is here tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Steve finds a way to accomplish a task, whether by himself or with the help of others. He just doesn't do it. He improves it and makes it better every time. It is now my honor to introduce Kathy Hiatt, Toastmaster and wife of Steve Hiatt, who will give us our toast for this evening.
It's really an amazing and thrilling moment to be up here to be able to speak and celebrate this moment for Steve, and just to reflect back on all, not only Steve, but all of the previous honorees of this award. Darien is truly a wonderful place to live in, and just tonight as everybody was getting up to speak, I was reflecting back through the years on different things. When Steve first started going to Lions Club, you know, the very first night he came home and he said, you know, I met a guy at Lions Club that knows you. I go, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, he grew up down the block from you. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, somebody named Kevin Monahan? True story. So tonight was great because my siblings we were able to reconnect and talk with Kevin. And then different stories through the years, you know, the friends that we've made with Lions Club, the wonderful police force that we have that I truly, truly admire. We've made friends that ride on the police force. They've helped us out from time to time. Just, I can't say enough in support of these people. The VFW gentlemen, I've known many of them personally, and their sacrifices they make for a country. My father, I'm sorry, could not be here. He passed away last year, but he truly thought the world of Steve, and I am really, really thankful that Steve was able to become involved with the VFW and to help them out in any way that he can, because that has personal meaning for our family. I want to say thank you to the staff, the Citizen of the Year Committee. These women do a Herculean job. It was crazy just on my part what I thought I had to do, and they do it all the time. They do it so well and so seamlessly, so I wanted to thank them. I also wanted to thank our politicians and everybody that serves on our city. We just attending the board meeting the other night and watching them, just all the work that they do and how everybody truly, truly pulls together in this town to make it a wonderful place to live. We have absolutely loved living in Darien. I tell people it's a wonderful town, and I can't imagine really living anyplace else. I really love it here, and just the fact that Steve was able to give back, that we're all able to give back so much to the community is a wonderful thing. When I was preparing this tonight, I found a quote that I liked, and it says, "The act of giving is not just about making a donation, it's about making a difference." Whenever I'm asked to describe my husband, I tell people this: Steve always leaves people in situations better than he finds them. Steve is a giver by nature. In the 20-plus years that I've known him, Steve has consistently and generously given his time, his energy, his ideas, and whatever resources he can provide to improve the quality of other people's lives. And he always manages to do so with humor, grace, and respect for all involved. Steve never does less when he can do more. This is who he is as a person, and it extends beyond his commitments to the various organizations mentioned tonight. He has often extended acts of kindness to friends, as in the case of Diana, neighbors. He's out there with the snowblower, sometimes clearing 5, 6, 7 driveways, etc., for our older neighbors and for people that might be out of town. But he's also done incredibly generous and caring things for perfect strangers. Some years ago, we were on vacation in Acapulco. We were down on the beach under one of the little shaded huts, and we had made the acquaintance of people under the next sheltered hut. And they were enjoying listening to Steve play guitar and sing, which is his wont when he's on vacation. It's how he relaxes. And they had told us that they had come to the same resort every year. Well, every single day, there would be beach vendors that would show up. And they would be selling their various wares, jewelry and serapes and sunglasses. Well, one of these people that showed up, one of the vendors, was a young man in his late 20s. And he would come by, and he would always stop, and he would linger for a while to listen to Steve play guitar. He told Steve that he knew how to play the guitar, but he was fascinated because he had never seen a 12-string guitar before, which is what Steve had brought down. So Steve offered to let him play, and when he did, you could just see the pleasure that this young man took in playing that instrument and the music he was creating. When he took his wares and moved on, the people that were sitting next to us told us that he was a regular vendor on the beach and that he came from a tiny village in the mountains that was quite poverty-stricken. And a lot of what he made on the beach, he donated back to his village, and he was active in helping with repairs of the church and collecting clothing for the children and for people in the village that didn't have enough to wear. And so a lot of the people that were regulars coming down would bring an extra suitcase of clothes to give this to this young man so that he could bring them back. Well, our week went on, and at the end of the week, the young man came by again, and he was stopped and he was listening to Steve play. And Steve finished his song, and he told the young man, "I have something for you." And as he stood there, Steve stood up and put the guitar into its case, and then handed the case to the man. He was stunned and he assumed there was some sort of mistake, and Steve assured him no, there was no mistake. He had heard of his work in the village, and he wanted him to have the guitar. And the young man began to cry. He said he had never received a gift of this value, and it was almost a miracle to him because he dreamed of someday being able to purchase a guitar to play for himself and for the people in his parish. And this was just beyond amazing to him that he received this gift. The gift of a guitar. It was a small gesture on the part of Steve, but it qualified as a miracle and a life-changing event for somebody else. And that's what it's all about. Many of you here tonight might think that his being involved in all of these organizations and the related meetings and responsibilities and events would cause a certain amount of drain on our family life and personal life. And this has not been the case at all. If I were to liken each act of giving to the action of throwing a pebble into a pond of water, the resulting ripples that eventually come back and touch the shore, those ripples would be the blessings that we've received and the friendships that have developed from his and our involvement with these organizations throughout the years. I often join him on many of his activities, such as the flag program, the Darien Dash, and Giant Steps events. The boys have learned the importance of giving back and often assist Steve with his Lions, church, and community event tasks. Steve has modeled giving back to the community and others with wonderful results. RJ and Diana often help out at Giant Steps events and with food basket deliveries. Kevin is now an architect who wants to become involved in donating his time to community planning. And Dan is studying to become a trainer of service dogs who assist those with mobility and hearing impairments. At its very source, Steve's giving nature starts at home. I would say that he is the perfect husband, but he does snore and he does steal the blankets at night. To balance that out, or perhaps to make up for it, Steve does it all. I am the envy of many wives. He will grocery shop, cook, clean house, do laundry, whatever is required around the house when needed without asking, and especially since I had my shoulder surgery, he really has picked up all of the slack. It is for this reason that our daughter-in-law Diana nicknamed him the unicorn, that most rare and unique of mythological creatures. On a personal level, and most importantly, Steve is a devoted and loving husband and has been a wonderful father to our 3 boys. He is a man that gives the best of himself to me on a daily basis. Through the years, he has supported my dreams, my motorcycle hobbies, and my career choices. He has given me the gift of freedom to be who I need to be with the sole intention of making me happy. As busy as he is, Steve has never ceased to make me feel that I am the most beautiful, adored, and cherished person in his life, and I am truly blessed to have this giver as my husband. The night the Citizen of the Year committee showed up on our doorstep and notified Steve that he had been nominated for the honor, he was stunned and immediately suggested there must be a more worthy candidate. This is typical of Steve. Despite all of his many talents and accomplishments, he is modest, humble, and self-deprecating. The only times he enjoys being the center of attention is when he has his guitar in hand, he's in his Cadillac, Bluella, or when our grandson Ryder is present. Then we fight for attention. I will have to say, though, that even the best of givers has a personal agenda every once in a while. As Bonnie and her committee ladies left the house that night, Steve closed the front door, turned and looked at me and said, "Honey, I wonder if the Citizen of the Year gets lucky more often." Because you all know Steve, he's a giver that way. So, at this time, on that note, I would like to ask everyone to please stand and raise your glasses in a toast to my beloved and wonderful husband, Steve Hiatt, the 2017 Darien Citizen of the Year.
This is very humbling and overwhelming. But, and also, I know I'm the last thing standing between you and the bar. So I don't have a lot to say, but I do have a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, when the ladies left, and it was quite a surprise, after my one solicitation to my wife, I did say, honey, I said, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think I'd be Citizen of the Year? And she thought about it for a second and looked at me and said, honestly, honey, you're not in my wildest dreams. There's a couple things that stand out about all the things that were brought up today. The first thing I'd like to mention is that so much that I'm credited with doing, I was led to do. Somebody showed me the way. And I have to comment, first of all, about the most personal thing, which was the kidney donation. If it hadn't been for Kathy, that wouldn't have happened. She's the one that led the way to that. She was friends with Diana and knew the situation. A young mother, single mother, healthy lifestyle, did nothing to bring it upon herself, but a woman in need. And quite frankly, Kathy went out and got tested without even talking to me about it, to see if she could help. And my reaction to that at first was, I thought we saved our kidneys for our family or to have spares if we need one. And she said, you know, if you can help, let's help. And she was right. So the sad part, I don't know, I didn't do it for a while. I said I would. I wanted to. But what were the odds? It was just, so it just didn't, it seemed, I don't want to say a waste of time, but it just seemed like it wouldn't pay off. But things got more dramatic and the need got more pronounced. And it was a blessing, Diana, that I was the last person they had hoped for, and it worked. So that's because of Kathy. She showed the way, and she should be recognized for that. So I'd like to... You talk about the Darien Dash, the involvement there with Claire and the council, but I didn't do any of that stuff alone. You know, first of all, I started off with the work with Commander Piccoli. But when you think about what we tried to do, we had a couple Lions members open up their homes on a Sunday morning to say, you all can come meet here. I mean, 25 Lions guys and volunteers is not a quiet group. Standing outside your house on your driveway at 6:30 in the morning, you know, eating donuts and drinking coffee. But there were 25 people there, 2 homeowners that set that all up. Commander Piccoli didn't really do himself justice in terms of how many times we rode that course together to try to make it better, to simplify it, to make it less intrusive on the community. But I didn't do that alone. And the food baskets I want to talk about for just a second, the one that we do as a Lions Club, and by the way, when I talk about the Lions Club, it's not all about the Lions Club, and I want to make that clear, and you'll hear it in a minute. But the food baskets we do with the Lions Club, first of all, if it weren't for the Park District, we wouldn't have a warehouse and distribution center to do it. And if we didn't have women from the Women's Club and the Park District gathering toys and wrapping toys, and some Lions guys that provide toys, and Mount Carmel, who supplies 8 bags of toys to get all that stuff together. And then once the committee gets all of these resources together, we show up on a Friday night. And when I say we, it is the community of Darien that shows up in a Frank Capra kind of moment where there is not just volunteer adults, but they bring their children to pack these bags and get them organized so that the next morning they can be distributed. And those same families show up the next day to distribute those food baskets out to the community. And those parents are showing their kids the value of giving. This is Darien. This is what we're all about. But it wasn't just one person or one club, one group. And that's what makes us so special. We work together, we put our differences aside, and we get things done. And then lastly, I just want to say, on a personal note, it's come back to me as well. And two quick stories that are kind of interrelated. Most of you, a lot of you know I had heart surgery last July. In fact, it was July 28th, as I recall, but it was that night we had so much rain that the news helicopters were hovering over the Jewel parking lot because it was flooding. Well, you know, the surgery was at 5, 6, 7 in the morning, so I'm in recovery after all of this stuff, but at 5 p.m., our basement, which had just been freshly remodeled, was starting to flood. And so I'm in the hospital with tubes coming out of just about everywhere, and come to think about it, I think it was everywhere. But my poor wife is at home, and who can she call? You know, her family doesn't live nearby and such, but she called Jim Kaiser, who works in Indiana, and said, let me take care of it. Within 5 minutes, 2 Lions Club members showed up, Jim Jankowski and Ken Conkey, to help my wife move things around in the basement, create a little water barrier, and we got no damage because of that. But that means so much to me that we have this town, this city as it's called, but it feels like a town to me. It's a small town. We make it a small town because of all this caring and what's available to us. And then about a month later, I had committed the club to support the Giant Steps. They have a cookout every summer. Now, Giant Steps, the children that they support and their families, to have a picnic in a place where there's no judging going on, to make it easy and comfortable, and the staff to have just some people show up for a little bit to help. So we show up, and on this event, there's, depending on the weather and timing, 200 to 300 people that get served. And so it's a pretty big deal. A tent, not much smaller than this room, and we show up with several grills and all of this stuff. Well, this is 4 weeks after my surgery, and we've got 4 or 5 grills going. We're cooking burgers, hot dogs, you name it. But the key thing is once we have to get the serving line set up because you have to help move it through that size of crowd. And so we make it easy. What do you want, a hot dog or hamburger? And you just put the things on the plates as you go through. And I picked the easiest job I could think there was, which at the end of the line, I stood there with a squeezed bottle of ketchup and a squeezed bottle of mustard. And that's all I had to do. What do you want on your burger or your dog? And about an hour into it, I was spent. And now I just feel like a jerk because I can't stand here and squeeze ketchup on hot dogs anymore. But I think it might have been Mark Piccoli that saw me, but he said it a little more dramatically, but you look like hell. And dragged me over and sat me in the shade. And they said, don't worry, we've got this. And everybody finished it, finished the cooking, finished the cleaning, packed it all up and took it away. So it's come back to me too. This is, well, I think in closing what I want to say, we say it's a nice place to live, Mayor, but Darien is a great place to live. So I would like you all to stand up and say, here's to you. I mean, thank you for making Darien a great place. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for being such a great candidate. It was probably a very easy choice for them this year. And I had my notes that, not that I would say this, but you did give great words of inspiration and wisdom. So the next page is really light on the print. So basically, I want to thank everybody in attendance. As Steve mentioned, you make this place a nice town to live in. If you recalled, I compared a gathering like this to a wedding. Did you know Steve is also a minister? He will gladly marry off your children as long as you invite him to your reception. He is also available for autographs and pictures when you are available. So let's have some fun. DJ Vanilla Bean is at your disposal, and the bar is open. Good evening, everybody.
I see trees of green.